Hi, it's Derek Baker again. This is the second video of four, hopefully discussing my endorsements in various key races in Texas. Next one is the governor's race. I'm going to refer to notes as well. Um, there are 8 candidates in the race, but there's 3 legitimate candidates in my opinion. Obviously, Governor Greg Abbott, Allen West, and Don Huffines. You'll just Google the history of Allen West and Don Huffines, but both are well-known, respected activists. Allen West is a colonel, former colonel in U.S. Marine Corps, served in distinguished career in Congress, and Don Huffines, former state senator, very conservative, one of the most conservative rated senators when he was there. I help run a business called Conservative Move that specializes in helping conservatives that are living and suffering in liberal states to move to red states like Texas. So why am I telling you that? Well, I talk to people every day, literally every day, that are outside of Texas and considering moving here into other red states. And everyone thinks that Governor Abbott is a conservative. Well, they're wrong. And I often have to explain that. And it is because they are comparing their very liberal governor, think Gavin Newsom, to Abbott, and they hear the things that are going on in Texas, and they think, oh, Texas is so wonderful. And it is, but they don't know the full story about why the things are happening in Texas. It's not just the governor, and oftentimes it is despite the governor. So what I want to do is kind of walk through that. If you compare, Governor Abbott to California Governor Gavin Newsom, Abbott's obviously going to look like a conservative, but this is Texas. We have higher standards, and we know what a genuine conservative looks like. So let me talk about a few things that have happened. People might say, regarding Abbott or defending Abbott as a conservative. Well, what about all the great legislation and conservative victories that were passed in the past year in 2021? I mean, there's constitutional carry, there's a heartbeat bill, we passed an election integrity bill, voter ID is in Texas, they banned critical race theory, there's a number of others. Significant, notable conservative victories. Well, did you realize that right now in Texas and in the past year that we have smaller Republican majorities in both the Texas House and the Texas Senate since when Governor Abbott was elected in 2015. In other words, he had larger majorities of Republicans when he was elected, and every year since recently, those margins that we have smaller, meaning it was easier to pass major conservative policy in past years than it was now. So why in the world did all these things pass now in basically the very end of his second term? Because he has Republican challengers. Abbott has 2 legitimate conservative Republican challengers and a number of other people running as well. So look, as honestly as I can say it, if you are happy about the significant conservative legislative policy victories that we've had in Texas over the past 18 months, you need to call Don Huffines and Allen West and say thank you, because they never would have happened without them. Some people might argue with that. There's some state reps that say they've been trying to do that, but the bottom line is they didn't. They didn't until the governor made it a priority because he wanted to protect his hide and get reelected to a 3rd term. That's just the reality. If you look in I've been in politics for 30 years, and the dynamic, anyone that knows anything about these races knows exactly what's going on. So let's talk about the races. Huffines. And there's a lot I could share with both candidates, but Don Huffines, solid conservative with libertarian leanings. He's one of the most conservative members of the Texas Senate when he was in office. He is legitimately willing to address and tackle tough issues. I mean, just look at the billboards, at his ads, at the things that they said, and the things that he said and proposed and voted for while in the Texas Senate. And look, he has the money to run a very effective campaign. He's very well off. He's a real estate developer, and his family is very well off. That's a nice thing to have. And he's done some fundraising as well. That's a very short version of Don Huffines. Allen West, Colonel Allen West. He is a dynamic speaker. I mean, man, he lights up a room. He is a genuine conservative fighter as well. Obviously ran and won for GOP chairman of the state of Texas. He was a former congressman from state of Florida. I served at the same time in Congress as a staffer when part of the time that he was there. And so he is a dynamic speaker and orator and good critical conservative thinker. He doesn't have the ground game that Huffines has. He doesn't have the money. He doesn't have the same grassroots game, but he's absolutely loved by the activists, the grassroots activists. And one of the reasons is he gives amazing red meat speeches. I'm not saying they're not genuine. In fact, I think they are. But he doesn't have as good of an infrastructure, in my opinion, as Huffines does, and doesn't have the money to support that, but he's a legitimate candidate. And it will be because of one of them, and really both, if they are able to get Governor Abbott under the 50% threshold, which would push it to a runoff. And I would just say this, right now, I think it's unlikely that Abbott goes into a runoff. It might be close. I haven't seen the latest polling numbers, but if Abbott is forced into a runoff, I believe he will lose, and I believe it will be Huffines or West that is going to be our next governor. I don't know which one. I don't know what the numbers are right now. So look, Huffines and West are infinitely more conservative than Governor Abbott. That's a fact. You can look at the history of when Abbott was, from when he was first elected in 2015, when he was Attorney General, and previous to that. He's never been known as a conservative. He's always been known as basically a stable moderate at best. Both Huffines and West have proven they will not shy away in fighting to protect our liberties, push back on government overreach on the state and the federal level. I'm personally voting for Huffines only because I feel he's run the most effective grassroots campaign, and he has the money to win. I would be absolutely thrilled if either Huffines or West makes a runoff, and I'll be happy to support either Huffines or West in that runoff against Abbott. There's my quick take on the governor's race. Do your own research, and thank you for listening.